Cui Haoyan's face was full of smiles that resembled the spring breeze. Although the results of the college tournament was not optimistic, at least he was in a good mood. Hearing the question, the faces of the others were also showing a color of interest. When they first came to Qing Dynasty they should enjoy themselves. Since we are already here, let's go shopping, isn't it a waste if we don't? Dongfang Yu grinned, let's set out. After leaving the inn, everyone went to a restaurant to eat. After asking around, they knew a bit about the Qing dynasty. The first tower had the most delicious meals. The group did not hesitate to head towards the first tower. Every region had different kinds of specialties. They had finally arrived at the Qing dynasty and their hearts were filled with curiosity. They naturally had to try out the most delicious food from this area. Standing in front of the door to the first tower, everyone had a bit of surprise in their eyes. On the golden name plate, the 3 characters of the first tower was written as if the calligraphy was dragons and phoenixes dancing together. The first tower was like its name, the best restaurant in the Qing dynasty. Bailey Hongzhuang had just entered the restaurant when she saw a smiling waiter come towards her. Several guests, there is no space on the second floor, all rooms are rented out. I do not know whether or not you wish to eat in the lobby. Everyone nodded their heads. Sitting in the lobby was also a good decision, because people were usually talking well and they could listen in on important conversations. When they arrived they knew nothing of the Qing dynasty, maybe they could hear some favorable news. Under the guidance of the waiter, Bali Hongzhuang and the others were seated in the center of the lobby. They had to admit that the business in the first tower was extremely busy. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others intentionally entered the most popular restaurant. Even so, they had not expected it to be this filled. Dear guests, I assume this is your first time coming to the first tower. Do you need me to recommend our signature dishes for you? The waiter was obviously very friendly, and he took the lead in introducing them after seeing the approving appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang. Seeing the waiter's enthusiasm, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also let much more comfortable with this waiter. Then we will trouble you with finding some dishes for us from the first tower. We are 8 people, please decide for us. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. With pleasure, the waiter nodded, please wait for a moment, and the wine will be delivered. After the waiter left, Zhang Yunfeng smiled and said, although I don't know much about this first tower, the waiter is very clever and friendly. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. In my opinion, the owner must have spent a lot of time on training the waiter. I also think that this restaurant is elegantly furnished, there is no lack of luxury and everything you could ever want from a restaurant can be found here. Dongfang Yu sighed. However, while they were looking at the layout of the first tower, they did not know that someone on the second floor were looking at them. Second brother, do you see those 2 great beauties in the lobby? In the middle a teenager around the age of 17 was saying with excitement as his eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Third brother, although the beauties of the Qing dynasty are quite a few, can they really be considered great beauties? Opposite the teenager, a man around 19, wearing a green robe was looking at him with a bored expression. Nangong Yujin's face had an expression of excitement. Second brother, I am telling the truth, if you don't believe me then take a look. Seeing that Nangong Yujin was so serious, Nangong Xiujia looked towards the lobby of the first tower. Just with this one look he could no longer believe his eyes. When did 2 such beautiful women come to our imperial capital? I did not get any news about this. Nangong Xiujia's eyes sparkled with a dazzling light as he coveted the woman below. So beautiful it was simply otherworldly. Second brother, that woman with the hibiscus-colored dress is so warm and affectionate, the tenderness is like water, it is truly the best among the best. Nangong Yujin's word revealed a strong interest, this woman was so delicate and beautiful she was out of this realm. It was really the first time they saw a woman like this. Nangong Xiujia looked at the hibiscus-dressed woman, but then his eyes fell on the white-dressed woman. He could not help but think that she was the real beauty of the 2. Both appearance and temperament were one of a kind, especially since the smile had completely caught his heart. This kind of rare beauty, he would never let her go, that was not the style of Nangong Xiujie. I think the white-dressed woman is more moving, Nangong Xiujie rubbed his chin as he said, his eyes sparkled with excitement. He had not been this excited for a long time already. Listening to the words of Nangong Xiujie, Nangong Yun also smiled. It seemed as if his second brother understood his thoughts. In this case, isn't that great for the two of us? Nangong Xiujie nodded, it is indeed good. After waiting for some time, the wine they had ordered arrived. Looking at the delicious wine in front of them, everyone were eager to get their dishes. This wine has a pretty color, the color and the fragrance is both superior, I just don't know how it tastes. Let's try it. Xia Jiqing smiled. Everyone also tasted a bit. After tasting it they could not help but sigh, sure enough this was the Fist Tower, the taste was really amazing. This taste is really good, Bai Junyu smiled, the wine from this big dynasty was truly special. At the same time, the conversation from all the others entered their ears. I hear that one of the 3 colleges were deliberately made fun of at the entrance of Lingyin College. Later the team left Lingyin College directly, did you know of this? Left? I didn't hear about this, but if they really left, can the college tournament continue? I don't understand why Lingyin College would do this, it's a bit too much, the man shook his head. Lingyin College was always very important in their minds, the status was very high, but this kind of move was simply shooting themselves in the foot. I don't know, but the college has lost twice in succession. It is normal to be ridiculed. The strength of Lingyin College is the highest. Bai Junyu changed his mind. Originally I wanted to see the strength of Lingyin College, but now I have no interest in them at all. He had also respected the achievements of Lingyin College over the years, and was humbled to learn from them. Although Lingyin College couldn't judge right from wrong and relied on the Qin dynasty, at least Lingyin College had some very good cultivators. However, when they showed this kind of attitude today, it proved that they had already fallen. Lingyin College has been attached to the royal family of the Qin dynasty for quite some years now. It is normal that it is filled with high-ranked people. Gong Xiaoqing slowly said, and there was a bit of disdain in his eyes. A talented gentleman was obviously well liked, but a person with strength but a narrow mind was simply just a villain. It was impossible for them to admire the strength of Lingyin College now. While they were eating they listened to the laughter and talks of the people around them, all kinds of news were being discussed but most of it was useless for them. At the same time, Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin slowly descended from the second floor. Their heads were held high and they walked with elegance. A folding fan was held in the hands, showing that they were graceful. Hey, isn't that the second Prince Nangong Xiujie and the third Prince Nangong Yujin? This first tower restaurant is really excellent. I heard that the royal family wanted to recruit their chef. They came to the first tower to recruit the chef, but why would the chef not go with them? Instead the princes often come here to eat instead, especially the second and third prince are regular customers. Where are the 2 princes going? They are heading towards the lobby. Do they know someone who is sitting in the lobby today? The eyes of everyone turned somewhat strange. If it was someone that knew the 2 princes, then their identities could not be normal, how could they eat in the lobby? Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin had a smug and confident smile on their faces, as princes they were the center of attention no matter where they went. With the words of these people things were likely to go their way now. Listening to the conversation of the other customers, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but look at Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin. Not for any other reason but because Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin were both students of Lingyin College. The strength is outstanding and they would likely be their opponents in the tournament. After a slight glance, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to eating their food. After all they would not be able to really understand these people from just a glance. After all they just wanted to be able to recognize them. As for the college tournament, it was impossible to do anything to them as they were from Kanglan College. The president would not allow it since they still needed the college to accept the tournament. However, when they turned around, Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin had stopped at their table. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at one another. It was quite difficult to guess what was going on. The news about their departure earlier, could it be that they already knew of their identities? However, the words that Nangong Xiujia said made them understand that it was purely them who thought that they knew their identity. Pretty girls, why not come with us to the palace to have a deep conversation? Nangong Xiujia's voice was warm and his lips were curled into a faint smile. The expression was one of a polite young master. However, when his voice fell, his eyes fell on Bailey Hongzhuang, and it was as if Gong Shaoqing and the other men were not present at all. This made all of them understand, Nangong Xiujia was not polite, he was being arrogant. What if we don't want to? Xia Jiqing's voice was cold. The attitude of Nangong Xiujia was very unpleasant. Gong Shaoqing and the other three men looked at one another. They instantly understood that they were looking for Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qingyue. Thinking about it, Gong Shaoqing and the others were somewhat helpless. They belonged to the special enrollment class of the Kanglan College, but these two women were the most attractive ones they had ever seen. At first, Lu Qingyue was hailed as the #1 beauty of the academy, attracting all male cultivators to pursue her. Many even joined the academy for the sake of seeing her. Since Bailey Hongzhuang arrived, the situation had not become better, in fact, it had just become more intense. Because now half the cultivators were after Lu Qingyue and the other half were after Bailey Hongzhuang. Even though these guys had been with Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qingyue for a long time, they still found them pleasing to the eye. The two of them were naturally the most eye-catching, and now the two princes had obviously come for the sake of them. Nangong Xiujia heard the coldness in Xia Jiqing's words and his eyes changed slightly. He had lived for many years and had found many girls throughout the years, but he had never been treated like this by a woman before. On the contrary, many women wanted to marry him, however he wasn't interested. The smile on Nangong Xiujia's face did not change because of Xia Jiqing's words. Instead he said, "I am Nangong Xiujia, the second prince of the Qin dynasty. I am very happy to have met you." At the same time, Nangong Yujin also went to the side of Lu Qingyue. "I have seen many beautiful, peerless, and independent people in my life, both in this city but also the rest of the country, but there are no woman as beautiful as you." Nangong Yujin did not hide his praise. A woman such as this one, it was really the first time he ever saw one. Lu Qingyue was unaccustomed to such a scene. Although many admired her, no one had ever been so direct before. She was unsure of how to respond for quite a while. Looking at the flustered face of Lu Qingyue, Nangong Yujin was even happier. This beautiful woman was so pure, just a few sentences and she was already shy. Nangong Xiujia looked at his younger brother. The eloquence of his third brother was truly magnificent, just a few words and he had already grasped the heart of the lady. The people in the restaurant instantly understood what was going on, and I could not help but look curiously at them. I just knew the two princes wouldn't have known someone from the lobby. It turned out that it was just a drunkard who was guessing before. I noticed that the two girls look stunning, but with their temperament they cannot be ordinary people. It doesn't matter who they are, now the two princes has come out, they are going to be taken away. The people shook their heads. They felt that these women would definitely follow the princes. Who wouldn't want to marry a prince? However, although the strength of these two princes was very outstanding, they were lustful people. Almost every outstanding woman within the capital had been picked up by them. These two women were truly pitiful. "Girl, I don't know what to call you." Nangong Xiujia's eyes landed on the body of Bailey Hongzhuang. Before looking from far away he had felt that she was very outstanding. Now that he was next to her he found her bright and moving. The exquisite and beautiful face had not the slightest imperfection, especially the temperament and style, the faint scent she carried. She was not comparable to any other woman. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly stood up, although she did not care too much about the purpose of Nangong Xiujie, but the other party was still the Qing dynasty's second prince. Since they had come to the Qing dynasty, naturally they had to give him some face. Bailey Hongzhuang. Nangong Xiujie whispered her name before his lips widened slightly. What a good name! Not only is the meaning wonderful, the sound is also pleasing to the ear. Thank you for your praise, second prince, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. However, when the smile of Bailey Hongzhuang fell into the eyes of Nangong Xiujie, he became obsessed. She was already the most beautiful, but the smile made it even more so. On the other hand, Dongfang Yu and the others looked at each other. It seemed that this had nothing to do with them at all. This Qing dynasty is a big country. Although the prince's abilities are great, they are still just greedy for beautiful women. Bai Junyu frowned. The other party's actions clearly showed that they did not put them in their eyes. The actions was truly disgusting. Gong Xiaoqing, Lu Qingyue is obviously not good at dealing with this situation. Do you want to help her? Dongfang Yu looked at Gong Xiaoqing. He found it really unbearable. Everyone knew that Lu Qinyue's heart was set on Gong Xiaoqing. How could he allow for these brothers to steal her away? Gong Xiaoqing's gaze was cold. Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin were also uninviting, however the gaze of Gong Xiaoqing was on Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Qinyue were two very different women. Bailey Hongzhuang was not as delicate as Lu Qinyue, on the contrary she was independent, strong, unique and unafraid. He believed that she would not let them off easily. There are many good delicacies and wines in our palace, I don't know if you would be interested. Nangong Xiujie's eyes were filled with a lusting light. If he managed to get Bailey Hongzhuang in his hands, he was sure that many people would be full of envy towards him. Seeing that Nangong Xiujie did not even try to hide his intentions with his speech, the disgust in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes deepened. She really had no good feeling towards the royal family. Whether it was the surname Xianyuan or Nangong, all of them were disgusting. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled into an enchanting smile, her pair of phoenix eyes were sparkling like the spring river. Nangong Xiujie's heart trembled. Such a beautiful person, every smile was simply too fascinating. However, the words of Bailey Hongzhuang was something he had not expected. Thank you, second prince, but I have already eaten. The simple and honest words were impossible to refute. The dishes on the table were almost all eaten and Bailey Hongzhuang was likely already full. However, everyone knew it was just an excuse. How could she answer so seriously? Nangong Xiujie's heart was puzzled. Did this beauty not understand what he meant? Bailey girl, come with me back to my palace. Taking a walk in my garden after a meal is also good, Nangong Xiujie tried asked again. Oh. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes widened slightly. If you ask me, young master, then I would have to disagree. I am already married. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes slightly, she was innocent and pure. This guy directly tore faces with them, but when someone was acting like this, it was better to play tricks on them. She would like to see how he could continue to reply. When the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang fell, the expression on Nangong Xiujie's face instantly became ugly to look at. How was this possible? He had never even once considered the possibility that Bailey Hongzhuang was already married. However, after hearing the words of Bailey Hongzhuang he realized that it was indeed possible. Bai Junyu could not help but laugh slightly. He had to truly hold back to not laugh out loud. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly domineering as always. Just a single sentence and she had already managed to make Nangong Xiujie's face turn into nothingness. In the eyes of Dongfang Yu's eyes, there was also a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang was simply too smart a woman. If you changed it to other women, then they would be at a loss for what to do, when faced with such attention. It was exactly because of this that so many people loved her. She was so eccentric and it was impossible to dislike her. Bailey girl, you are married? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head seriously. Not only am I married, there is also a child. There were children. Nangong Xiujie's eyes widened as another bomb exploded in his mind, making him completely dumbfounded. This woman, one couldn't see any traces of having given birth at all. However, it was true that ordinary women were married around this age. Ha! Cui Haoyan couldn't help but hold his hand over his mouth. Bailey Hongzhuang was simply too amazing. He was feeling pain holding back his smile. He had always thought that Nangong Xiujie was very annoying. Obviously now he felt some sympathy towards him. Now he was completely being played by Bailey Hongzhuang as if he was a monkey. Xia Jiqing and Zhang Yunfeng both couldn't help but feel the corners of their lips twitch. Bailey Hongzhuang was simply invincible. This solution was the best she could come up with. Little Black and Little White couldn't help but laugh out loud. The owner was really a master. The ability to trash talk was seriously stronger than anyone else. Nangong Yujin was a bit dumbfounded after seeing this scene. He did not expect the brothers' luck to be so bad. This was truly a bit funny. Lu girl, you shouldn't have been married yet, right? Nangong Yujin could not help but worry. His luck shouldn't be as bad as his second brother's, right? Lu Qingyue was slightly stunned and her eyes could not help but fall on Gong Xiaoqing's body. She very seldom lied, and it was impossible to lie about being married. However, the reaction of Lu Qingyue was seen by Nangong Yujin and he understood everything. I want to invite Lu girl to go for a tour. I don't know what you think. However, the next moment, Gong Xiaoqing stood up and said, Qingyue is my fiancée, she is not going with the third prince. Accompanied by Gong Xiaoqing's voice, Lu Qingyue's eyes showed strong joy. Although she knew that he was just saying this to help her, she was immensely happy that he would stand up and save her from this situation. This was enough, she was happy. The people within the restaurant were also stunned. They had never expected that the story would take such an unexpected twist from what they had imagined. The woman was so young, she was already married and even had children. No one had thought of that. The other woman had a fiancé. Nangong Yujin's eyes could not help but fall onto Gong Xiaoqing's body. You said she is your fiancé. Your fiancé. With the voice of Nangong Yujin falling, the look of everyone changed again. They did not expect that the woman's fiancé would be here. Nangong Yujin even said such a thing. That was a bit too much. The third prince has always been overbearing. It is not first time that he is robbing women, it's just that today he is going too far. In the past, even if the third prince used some means to rob women of other men, he would at least not directly grab them in front of a crowd. As such, the third prince was unable to deal with them. Everyone couldn't help but feel sorry for Gong Xiaoqing. It was a blessing for this man that he had a beautiful fiancée like this. However, they had not expected their romance to be ruined today. Third prince, Gong Xiaoqing is indeed my fiancé. Lu Qingyue stressed. Nangong Yujin's smile was a bit embarrassed as he said, since it is just a fiancé, you are still yet to be married. This prince has seen you and you are going to come with me. The voice just fell and Dongfang Yu and all the others stood up. I did not expect this. The princes of the Qin dynasty are this unreasonable. We are also learning something new today. Hey, you dare to comment on my country and the royal family, do you not want to live? Nangong Yujin was making an obvious threat. At this time Nangong Xiujie's eyes landed on the body of Bailey Hongzhuang. He always felt that she was not saying the truth. He was always hanging around women and he had a certain understanding of them. No matter from what angle he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, she had not given birth to a child. Maybe. Could she be simply lying to him? Bailey girl, you will also come back with me. If you really have a man and child, I will send for them later. Nangong Xiujie slowly sad, his eyes were cold. If this was really fake, wasn't he losing face? It was better to bring her back first and then find out later. The second prince means to kidnap us women. Bailey Hongzhuang was annoyed and a bit of coldness was in her eyes. Even if she knew that Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin were not good people, she did not think they were this bad. Gong Xiaoqing and the others also took out their weapons, since there was no way to solve it with words, they could only fight it out. Letting Nangong Xiujie taking away Bailey Hongzhuang, that was impossible. I have seen shameless people, but I have never seen shameless people who does not want face. Your face is really thick. Xia Jiqing was angry and she had been furious for a long time. These scums should have died long ago. This was really not giving any face to Nangong Xiujie, their expression turned immensely difficult to look at. The look of the people listening changed, although they could see that what Xia Jiqing had said was rather extreme, they did feel that what she said was appropriate. When they saw that Bailey Hongzhuang got ready to move, Nangong Yujin's expression changed and he sternly said, "You dare to touch us? I guess you want to have the whole Imperial Guards as your opponent. A coward like you, I am afraid has no strength at all. Only able to rely on the so-called Imperial Guards to save you." Bailey Hongzhuang was no longer caring about ridiculing them, they had already torn faces so there was nothing to fear. When Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin heard this, their expressions turned gloomy. The words of Bailey Hongzhuang were truly too much, even just daring to say such a thing was unforgivable. This prince will let you know how amazing this prince is. Nangong Xiujie slapped on the wine table, and the wine table directly split into two pieces of broken wood. It was impossible to retreat even a step. It was just that Nangong Xiujie's move did not achieve the result he wanted. As if this simple track can scare us, the irony in Bailey Hongzhuang's words were filled with mockery, this kind of guy who didn't know about heavens above heavens. After seeing the action, the waiter's face changed and he quickly stepped forward. "Second and third prince, you know the rule on our first tower, you cannot act like this in our restaurant." Hearing this, Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin looked at each other before they looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and said, "Go out." However, Bailey Hongzhuang directly sat down on a chair. "I am not going out, what can you do about it?" Xia Jiqing and the others were not caring about the two princes at all. It was already a disaster, there was no reason to hold back, since they had offended them, they could just offend them completely. Anyway, even if they did not insult them now, they would become enemies at the college tournament. Nangong Xiujie was in a hurry, but he had never seen such an arrogant woman before, this was the first time in their entire lives. "Do you know what you are doing?" Nangong Xiujie's voice was full of threats. "In the Qing dynasty, if you dare to offend me, I can promise that you can't live to exit the imperial capital." "I am so scared." Bailey Hongzhuang patted her chest, her face not the slightest bit scared. She was clearly ironic. Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin couldn't bear it any longer. If they couldn't attack, where would the prestige of the two of them be in the future? Gong Xiaoqing and the others were somewhat worried. The royal family had always been a fearsome force, not to mention that the Qing dynasty was a big country. If Nangong Xiujie really used the power of the royal family to deal with them, then the situation would be worse. "Master, you are mocking them like this, are you not afraid of the power of the royal family? Although the Imperial Guard is weaklings, if the real royal powerhouses comes out, then it can be troublesome." The eyes of Little Black were a little worried. Although they would be able to leave safely, there were too many teammates and bringing all of them to have a safe exit was not easy. There was no fear in the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang. It is natural that they are from the royal family, but before that they are from the Lingyin College. If they use the royal power to deal with a contradiction between colleges, no one will want to work with them in the future. Little Black and Little White realized that she was correct. As a result, this situation was actually not that bad. "If you fall into my hands, I will let you suffer greatly." Nangong Xiujie was gnashing his teeth, the move of Bailey Hongzhuang was simply too much. The atmosphere was tense and everyone watching were filled with excitement. They all knew that it was impossible to do anything on the first tower without being banned, even the princes dared not cause problems, so they were absolutely safe in this lobby. This kind of good show is not seen often, so this time's meal was definitely worth it. To each other, Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was very cold, without the layer of identity, Nangong Xiujie was nothing but trash. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang he would not hesitate to return the attack. Nangong Xiujie was furious, but as long as they were sitting within the first tower he was completely helpless. Noticing the helplessness of Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin, Bailey Hongzhuang was also puzzled. Even the two princes dared not break the rules of the first tower. It seemed that the first tower's background was rather amazing. However, under the tense atmosphere a voice suddenly caught the attention of everyone. Wah! The sound of a baby crying sounded together with a black-robed man who came over, carrying a child. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang, his eyes lit up in happiness. "Wifey, why haven't you come back yet? You need to take care of your child and your husband." Xia Jiqing and the others were instantly stunned. Who was this guy? They had never seen him before. Bailey Hongzhuang was also stunned after seeing the black-robed figure. What kind of ghost was he? How could Mo Yinjue appear here? The most important thing was that Mo Yinjue was actually cooperating with her. Although she had not had much contact with Mo Yinjue, she knew that he was not a person who'd help others. But now he was helping her with her problems. Awesome, this is great. Little Black shook his head as it said. This Mo Yinjue was absolutely perfect, only God knows where he managed to get a kid from. Master, this person is really difficult to see through. Little White was speechless. The situation is already a mess, but Mo Yinjue dared to enter and mess the situation up once more. The courage he had was not small. Dongfang Yu and the others looked at each other. They did not know where this black-robed man came from. They didn't know any people within this country. The other people within the restaurant were also stunned. Their eyes widened in incredulity. They had previously suspected that the words Bailey Hongzhuang had said were false. They did not expect that reality proved them wrong. In this case, Nangong Xiujie wanted to take away a child's mother. This was simply too much for everyone. However, the most horrified people present was the waiter and the manager. Since when had their boss gotten a child? They clearly had never heard about this. After Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin saw Mo Yinjue, their expressions also changed slightly. They had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was Mo Yinjue's woman. This situation was getting bad. Mo Gongzi, Nangong Xiujie's face had a smile on his face and a faint gleam in his eyes. Bailey girl is your wife? Mo Yinjue smiled and nodded. Looking at this situation, it seems that there is some sort of conflict between the two princes and my lady. My lady has always had a child's temper. I hope the two princes will be able to let go of the matter. When the voice fell, Mo Yinjue directly handed the child in his hands to Bailey Hongzhuang, making it look so familiar for all who watched. Chapter 686, Mo Yinjue is helping them out of trouble. In addition to Di Beichen, when did Bailey Hongzhuang find another husband? Xia Jiqing's heart was filled with questions. This wasn't right. She had never even heard of the existence of this young master. When he listened to Mo Yinjue's affirmative answer, Nangong Xiujie's face was ugly to behold. It was no wonder that Bailey Hongzhuang was so arrogant before. She was holding the thigh of Mo Yinjue. Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin looked at one another. It seemed that they couldn't get what they wanted today. Mo Yinjue was a special existence in their eyes, just as the first tower was a special existence within the imperial capital. Originally they thought that Mo Yinjue was just an ordinary businessman. When they wanted to bring the chef from the first tower into the palace to cook in their kitchens, the chef refused and they wanted to kill the chef. They would never have thought that their father would save the chef, and reprimanded them, saying that no matter what, it was best to not provoke Mo Yinjue. At the beginning it was obvious that the emperor felt that Mo Yinjue's identity was a taboo and they felt shocked. Their father was so strong, the other party was just a restaurant owner, but even their father feared him, showing that he was not a simple character. Neither Nangong Xiujie nor Nangong Yujin were stupid people. Since then they had been very polite towards Mo Yinjue and never gotten into any contradictions with him. Since it is Mrs. Mo, naturally we will not mind it, Nangong Xiujie slowly said. Watching how the change in the attitude of Nangong Xiujie happened so fast, the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others showed confusion. This change was simply too fast. What is the identity of this Mo Gongzi? These two princes are so scared of him, the eyes of Dongfang Yu blinked with uneasiness. They wouldn't have gone from the ashes and into the fire, would they? After all, this Mo Gongzi would not help her for no reason. Gong Xiaoqing had a heavy expression on his face. When he faced the two princes he still didn't worry so much, but the sudden appearance of Mo Yinjue was too hard to understand. I don't know, let us wait and see, I accidentally broke a table, let the waiter put it on my tab, Nangong Xiujie said, Yujin and myself have some things we need to do, so we must take our leave. The table wasn't stable enough, the second prince just helped me find a faulty table, how could I ask the second prince to pay for it? Mo Yinjue's lips were raised in a slight smile, but there was no chance in the emotions deep within his eyes. Well then, we will meet the next time the two princes come to the first tower. I hope that you will come often, seeing that Mo Yinjue gave them a chance to step back, their expressions also softened. That's good, thank you Mo Gongzi. As the voice fell, Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin were no longer willing to stay at the first tower for even a minute. Today they had really lost face. After leaving through the entrance of the first tower, Nangong Yujin's face was gloomy, I did not expect such a thing to happen. At this moment the feelings in his heart could only be described as extremely regrettable. Originally he thought that today's harvest would be good, they never thought that it would not be a blessing but a loss of face. Nangong Xiujie's face was even uglier. Yujin, do you think that Bailey Hongzhuang is really Mo Yinjue's wife? I don't know, Nangong Yujin shook his head. If not, why would he help her? I don't know, Nangong Xiujie was also puzzled. He was quite certain that this was the first time Bailey Hongzhuang had appeared in the imperial capital. If this was the case, then Bailey Hongzhuang and Mo Yinjue should not know each other, and if they did not know one another it'd be impossible for Mo Yinjue to help her. He often came to the first tower, and although Mo Yinjue came and went like a ghost, he had still seen him several times. According to his understanding, Mo Yinjue had never been the kind of person who liked to help others. On the contrary, Mo Yinjue absolutely hated trouble. Was it really like this? Was Bailey Hongzhuang truly the wife of Mo Yinjue? It seems to be the only explanation. They also seemed very matching. After Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin left, the waiter also walked to the side of Mo Yinjue. Boss. You, Mo Yinjue lifted his right hand and stopped the waiter's words. Come here and clean up. Yes. Bailey Hongzhuang returned the child to Mo Yinjue. Is this your child? Mo Yinjue shook his head, I don't even have a lady, how can I have a child? I just heard your conversation and borrowed the child from someone else. When the voice of Mo Yinjue fell, Xia Jiqing and the others felt relieved. It seemed that the situation was not as bad as they thought, this Mo Yinjue was just trying to help out. Hongzhuang, do you know this Mo Gongzi? Xia Jiqing could not help but ask. Looking at the way the two were talking together, it was clearly not the first time they met. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head as she smiled. Yes, let me introduce you all. This is Mo Yinjue, I met him a few times, he is my friend. If she had been unsure last time when they met in Longuang town, now she could definitely be certain that Mo Yinjue was her good friend. After all, She was not an ungrateful person and Mo Yinjue had helped her again today. It was clear that they were friends by now. Looking back at Mo Yinjue, Bailey Hongzhuang continued to introduce, "These are my classmates from the Kanglan College." Mo Yinjue nodded slightly to everyone, "It is a pleasure to meet you." Gong Xiaoqing and the others also nodded in greeting. Their impression of Mo Yinjue was quite good, at least he had helped them solve a big issue just now. "Thank you for just before," Bailey Hongzhuang said, as her eyes were filled with sincere gratitude. Mo Yinjue just shook his hand and said, "I couldn't just watch, I hope you didn't mind." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded, "I understand, you were just cooperating with me." When they heard Mo Yinjue say this, they had an even more favorable impression of him. It seems that this Mo Yinjue was truly a gentleman. "Mo Gongzi, are you the boss of the first tower?" Xia Jiqing could not forget how the waiter had referred to him as boss, and she looked at Mo Yinjue. In her eyes, the first tower was a very famous place. "Yes, I am a businessman," he said, and he could not help but glance at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang was also finding it a bit comical. Although Mo Yinjue had said he was a businessman before, she had not felt he looked like one. She did not expect him to run such an ordinary business as a restaurant. This was out of her expectations. Mo Gongzi is a wonderful person who is very eloquent. The first tower is completely different from any other restaurant. Mo Gongzi is truly a dragon amongst men. Cui Haoyan praised. Chapter 688, Bailey Hongzhuang's ability. Cui Gongzi also has a good reputation. In the future you should come to the first tower often so we can all gather together. I'll naturally treat you all. Moyan answered in a calm manner. In the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang was a bit of doubt. She could not help but feel that the Mo Yinjue she saw today was a bit different from the one she had met at the Luoyun Mountains. At that time, Mo Yinjue had this gloomy aura around him, but now it was obviously much lighter. The only thing which had not changed was the pair of black eyes that was showing a dense darkness. After a bit of conversation, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others got up and left. They had been out for long enough. The two mentors and the vice president were likely to have already finished discussing the situation and might even have returned. Mo Yinjue did not say much. He just sent them out the entrance to the first tower. "Hongzhuang, I did not expect that you knew people in the Qing dynasty." Xia Jiqing's eyes sparkled with excitement. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly too powerful, and even they, as her friends, did not know too much about her. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly, "I have only met him twice. That he helped me today was also out of my expectations." Although Dongfang Yu and the others did not speak, they were also filled with admiration. Since they had gotten to know Bailey Hongzhuang she had truly stunned them time and time again, but now they were used to it. "I did not expect that Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujun turned out to be that kind of people. Although they did not do anything to us because of Mo Yinjue today, I believe they will do their best to cause problems when we enter the tournament." Zhang Yunfeng frowned. According to her judgment, Nangong Xiujie and Nanong Yujin were both people that would cause problems. She was afraid that there would be a lot of troubles in the future. Xia Jiqing put her hand on Zhang Yunfeng's shoulder, her face filled with a smile. "Yunfeng, why do you worry so much? Even if we had not insulted them today, we were still destined to be enemies at the tournament." "Thank you," Zhang Yunfeng couldn't help but laugh. "That is also true, but we still have to be careful." The others nodded their heads. This college tournament was truly a feast of hongmen. "I don't know how ugly Nangong Xiujie's expression will be when he realizes that we are students of the Kanglan College," Xia Jiqing said with a smile. "I am sure it will be very exciting." "Hongzhuang, when Nangong Xiujie finds out that you aren't Mo Yinjue's wife, will he blame Mo Yinjue?" Cui Haoyan showed a hint of worry. Mo Yinjue had acted to save them, so naturally he was their friend now. They could leave the Qing dynasty after the tournament, but the restaurant of Mo Yinjue couldn't. If this would cause problems for Mo Yinjue, they would feel uncomfortable and guilty. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes flashed strangely. It shouldn't be a problem. Since Mo Yinjue could make the two princes this afraid, then he must have some backing. She was certain that Mo Yinjue was not a simple character and that his backing was rather outstanding. Otherwise it was impossible to cause even the emperor to be afraid. Since Mo Yinjue had helped them, he had to be certain that nothing would happen to him. After the return of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, it did not take long before Lu Huaiyan returned with Huan Chuyu. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Huan Chuyu slowly said, "You did a good thing today. Kanglan College is not to be humiliated like this. This matter was wrong by Lingyin College." Even though he was usually a very kind person, at this moment, his face was showing traces of anger. The method that the Lingyin College used was simply over the top. Xia Jiqing and the others were also relieved. Since even the vice principal agreed with their actions, they did not have to worry about anything. "We will stay in this inn and see how Lingyin College intends to resolve this matter. Since they invited us to come, naturally it is their responsibility." The expression of Huan Chuyu revealed a trace of pride. Although the Lingyin College was strong, the Kanglan College students and mentors were not soft persimmons either. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the room. They had full faith in the vice principal's ability to handle this matter. He was not only the vice principal at the Kanglan College, he was also a 4-tier alchemist. This is an identity which was enough to attract the respect of others. At the same time, inside the Lingyin College, things were starting to change. Huan Yulong's face was very ugly. He originally wanted to embarrass Kanglan College, but he did not want to be the one who was embarrassed. The vice president of Lingyin College, Lin Ninghao, also had an ugly expression on his face. "This time you have gone too far. It is fine to go a little overboard, but the Kanglan College is not a vegetarian. They will not let you stomp all over them. It is clear that the team from Kanglan College has already made up their mind. Unless they come and personally invite them, then they would not return. Their college tournament was prepared especially for the Kanglan College. If they don't participate, then that will be equivalent to wasting all their hard work. The most important thing is that now Kanglan College was in charge. If the team did not participate, then Lingyin College would get a reputation of being incompetent." Huan Yulong's eyes were also serious. Obviously this time he had gone too far, and he was not sure how to solve it. "Vice President, this was indeed too much, but I don't know what to do now." Huan Yulong looked at Lin Ninghao with a hopeful gleam in his eyes, hoping that he could save him and ensure that he did not lose his position in the college. "You were too reckless. It is impossible to not be punished. As for how to solve this problem, I will discuss it with the principal," Lin Ninghao said faintly. With Lin Ninghao's voice falling, Huan Yulong's heart sank. He understood that Lin Ninghao was telling the truth, and he was the one who had brought this problem onto himself. But why didn't he consider the reaction of the Kanglan College? The more he thought about their decisive attitude, the more he hated them. When the college tournament began, he would never let them off easily. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang got up early. They had heard about the Wubao Pavilion in the Qin dynasty. It was a place with treasures that all cultivators needed. Last night they had planned to go to Wubao Pavilion to look around, but the appearance of Nangong Xiujia had made them lose too much time and they had to cancel. When Bailey Hongzhuang exited the room, she saw that Xia Jiqing and the others were already waiting for her outside. Currently they all thought that living in the inn was much better than living in the Lingyin College. With the attitude Lingyin College had towards them, it was clearly a matter of not being able to live well. Now that they lived outside, they were all very happy. There was no problem with coming and going as they pleased. "Hongzhuang, you are finally up." Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a happy smile as she quickly walked next to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head slightly. She could see that Xia Jiqing's mood was not affected by the college tournament, that she saw their trip to the Qing dynasty as an outing, and she could not help but smile. She had to admit that Xia Jiqing's mentality was really good. Ordinary things could not affect her mood at all. Not only Bailey Hongzhuang, but also Zhang Yunfeng and the others felt that Xia Jiqing was a hyper person, which made them all feel much better. Since everyone has arrived, let's go, Dong Fengyu said as he looked at all of them. Wubao Pavilion was very famous in the Qing dynasty's imperial city. Just asking around, everyone knew the location of the pavilion. When they arrived in front of the Wubao Pavilion, their eyes could not help but widen slightly as they looked at the purple-black building. The building was delicate and it was obvious that the architects had spent a lot of time thinking about the construction of this building. A strong sense of power came from the building, making everyone feel a sense of respect from just looking at it. Wubao Pavilion was split into 3 layers. The first layer had medication and herbs needed by the different cultivators. The second layer had weapons needed by cultivators and the third, and final, layer had inscriptions. Not even mentioning the first and second layers, the third layer alone was enough to consolidate the status of Wubao Pavilion. Inscriptions had always been rare, and many practitioners had no way of getting in touch with such inscriptions. However, there were inscriptions in the Wubao Pavilion. How could cultivators not revere this place? They slowly walked into the Wubao Pavilion. As soon as they entered they could see that the business was good. There were a lot of practitioners inside buying the medicines and herbs they needed. Medicines and herbs were easy to consume and after they had been consumed they would be gone, as such the cultivators had a great demand for them. The layout of this Wubao Pavilion was very different from other shops and it was giving a sense of comfort when one was inside. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were filled with a fascinating gleam of praise. Wubao Pavilion was truly a famous place within the imperial capital and the things they had here were also eye-opening. The medicines and herbs in this Wubao Pavilion are so many, and many of the things that are hard to find and exceedingly rare can be found here. It was hard for Xia Jiqing to hide her excitement. The prices were naturally very high, but it was often so that, even if you had the money, you couldn't buy them. The amount of items in the Wubao Pavilion was without a doubt the most she had ever seen. It was clear why they were doing so well. Bai Junyu's face lit up with a smile that radiated like sunshine. This Qing dynasty is a big country, the number of alchemists is much higher than in smaller countries, naturally it can't be compared. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly. This was also the power of a big country, it was very rich, it was truly an eye-opener. If you need anything, then go buy it, Gong Shaoqing said slowly. The market price in Wubao Pavilion was quite fair, and one would not suffer a loss from buying their items here. For some time, everyone's eyes were on the counter, picking the medicinal herbs and pills they needed. Before coming to the Qing dynasty, they had prepared a lot of money, so if they saw something they needed, they would be able to purchase it. Bailey Hongzhuang also looked at the things that were for sale, but she had no intention of buying anything, she was an alchemist herself after all. However, just as Xia Jiqing and the others were buying things, a familiar and provocative voice rang out from behind them. Hey, see who is here, it turned out to be the ones who can't even prove their own identity. Lu Jingqi's eyes were smug and filled with sarcasm. Yesterday, because of the mentors, she did not have the opportunity to humiliate Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Today they wanted to see the famous Wubao Pavilion, they had never expected they would run into them here. Bailey Hongzhuang and the other people slowly turned around. After seeing the group of cultivators from Beihai College, their faces changed slightly. I forgot to look at the calendar before going out today. When going out I actually encountered something so unsavory, it really made my mood bad. Xia Jiqing did not hesitate to fight back, she was not going to eat a loss. Xia Jiqing, you are really poisonous, Lu Jingqi was gloomy, but after a bit she recovered, it's better than some people who were blocked in front of the door and can't enter. Bailey Hongzhuang gave Li Jingqi an indifferent glance and tuned to Xia Jiqing. Why do you care about what mad dogs are saying? They like to bark, but do you have to accompany them? She is really annoyed with this group. No matter where they go, they were like a group of annoying flies. Listening to the words of Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Jiqing could not help but raise her thumb. Bailey Hongzhuang was truly too poisonous when she spoke. You are right, let them bark, why bother with them? Xia Jiqing smiled and nodded before she began continuing to choose which items to buy. Lu Jingqi and the others' faces turned immensely ugly at that moment. This Bailey Hongzhuang was so good at trash talking. They had tried to humiliate Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, now the words of Bailey Hongzhuang had made them fall into such an embarrassing situation. Bailey Hongzhuang, you can't be too much. Lu Jinglin could not help but say out loud. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled mockingly. Lu girl, what you said was really interesting. From the beginning to the end, you were looking for trouble. Now you are saying that I am too much. I think your logic is really quite something. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Lu Jingqi coldly and then she said, if you want to continue then let's just fight it out. If you do not wish to fight then obediently shut your mouth, don't continue to provoke us if you are cowards. The words of Bailey Hongzhuang were very strong. This group of people were all bark but no bite. Although they were afraid of fighting, they were constantly finding trouble. As soon as it was said, Lu Jingqi and the others looked at each other and their faces turned embarrassed. They could not help but look at Xiao Lanmei, but they could see that he had already gone to the counter to pick his goods and was not paying attention to them. Obviously Xiao Lanmei had no interest in what they were doing, and if they truly became hands-on, Lu Jingqi would be beaten. In their minds the two Lu sisters could only give up their plans. Not long after, Xia Jiqing and the others had picked the herbs and medicines they needed and went to the second floor of the Wubao Pavilion. I heard that Wubao Pavilion's weapons are very famous. The quality of the weapons here are much better than elsewhere. Zhang Yunfeng's pretty face revealed a happy expression. For cultivators, the weapon they used was extremely important. The expressions of Xia Jiqing and the others also appeared interested. As their strength had gradually increased, their current weapons had become unsuitable. They needed to buy some that fit their current strength. I don't know how many weapons this Wubao Pavilion has, but I am quite sure that it should not disappoint us. Dongfang Yu smiled, the alluring peach eyes were filled with boundless charm. When they saw the dazzling weapons on the second floor, all of them had stunned expressions on their faces. So many weapons, they really had not expected this. Swords, knives, staves, polearms, whips, everything could be found here, all of which were in different quality and with different price points. Dear guests, are you here to buy weapons? A female shop assistant came to the front of their crowd, her face was beautiful and she held a graceful smile on her lips. I want to buy a sword, Cui Haoyan answered. His sword had been used for a couple of years and now there were 2 dents on it, it was no longer suitable for him to use. He had already wanted to change it earlier, but he had not been able to find something suitable. There were so many weapons in the Wubao Pavilion, he hoped to find a sword that suited him. Please come with me, the shop assistant smiled slightly, turned her body and lifted her left hand, indicating for Cui Haoyan to follow her. Zhang Yunfeng also went together with Cui Haoyan while the others began observing the many weapons on display. With so many treasures gathered here, it was easy to see how strong of a background the Wubao Pavilion had. If there was no strong background, then it would be impossible to create such a place like this. Xia Jiqing's gaze fell on a red and long whip that was laying in front of her. The long whip was extremely tough but at the same time very beautiful. It was a treasure. Jiqing, this long whip is suitable for you. Zhang Yunfeng smiled. Xia Jiqing smiled slightly but when her eyes fell onto the high price of the whip, she let go of it and placed it back. She was not favored in her family, she did not have much money on her, so she couldn't buy this even if she wanted it. Lu Qingyue was together with Gong Xiaoqing. Since yesterday where Gong Xiaoqing said that he was her fiancé, Lu Qingyue had been very happy. Even if it is fake, she still feels that her relationship with Gong Xiaoqing had gotten closer. Yu Zhan Yunfeng, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Xia Jiqing were standing together. Looking at Lu Qingyue who was walking behind Gong Xiaoqing like a small chick following its mother, the three could not help but sigh. Lu Qingyue really likes Gong Xiaoqing. Gong Xiaoqing only helped her out, but she is already this excited. Zhan Yunfeng shook her head and sighed. She had known Gong Xiaoqing for a long time, and she was very clear that he only viewed Lu Qingyue as a sister, however Lu Qingyue never understood this. Lu Qingyue has her persistence. Maybe it will bring success in the future, Bailey Hongzhuang answered gently. The feelings between other people was not something they could mess with. That Lu girl looks good, her strength is good, and she is also an alchemist. I do not understand why Gong Xiaoqing does not like her. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with a bit of helplessness. This kind of situation was really enough to make her embarrassed. When the voice of Xia Jiqing fell, Zhan Yunfeng's eyes landed on her body, and a teasing smile appeared on her lips. Jiqing, from what I can see, Bai Junyu is also very good toward you. I don't know, what you think about him. When the words came out, Xia Jiqing quickly sighed, Yunfeng, what are you talking about? Bai Junyu and me. There is nothing going on between us. Oh. Bailey Hongzhuang also chuckled slightly and placed her hand on Xia Jiqing's shoulder. Look over there, Bai Junyu is watching you. Xia Jiqing could not help but look towards Bai Junyu, and sure enough, he was looking at her as he smiled. When seeing this, Zhan Yunfeng and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at one another, feeling it quite funny. As early as when the school year began, they had already realized that Bai Junyu felt that Xia Jiqing was special to him, but Xia Jiqing seemed to have no awareness of this. You're all talking nonsense. Xia Jiqing left the sentence before she ran to another place to look at weapons. Bailey Hongzhuang and Zhan Yunfeng could only feel helpless. It seems that Bai Junyu wants to be a couple with Jiqing, but I still think he has a way to go, Zhan Yunfeng said with a smile. If you really like someone, who cares about spending more time getting close? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly and picked up the long whip that Xia Jiqing had put down before. Although she and Xia Jiqing were good sisters, she had not asked much about Xia Jiqing's family, but now it seemed that she was somewhat similar to her. Cui Haoyan was very happy to have found a weapon in the Wubao pavilion. With this weapon his strength would have improved by a bit. As for Gong Xiaoqing and the others, although they admired the weapons, they had no need for new ones, so they bought nothing. Then everyone's eyes fell on the stairs leading towards the third floor. There should be inscriptions on the third floor. I have lived for so long, and heard of inscriptions many times, but I have never seen one before. Zhan Yunfeng could not help but smile. Lu Qinyue's face was also filled with different emotions. Inscriptions are very rare, this Wubao pavilion is able to sell them, it is really amazing. Let's go up, if we can get an inscription for our weapon that'd be so amazing. Cui Haoyan just bought a new weapon and he was very happy. If he could find an inscription that was suitable for his weapon, then his strength would be increased even further. Just as they were excited and wanted to go up, a sales assistant reminded them, Dear guests, there are inscriptions on the third floor, but you have to whisper when you go up. If you disturb the inscription masters, you will likely be driven out. Listening to the kind reminder of the sales assistant, everyone nodded seriously. Inscription masters were more rare than alchemists and they had strange tempers. They should pay attention to their behavior. However, the hearts of everyone became even more excited. They had never even seen an inscription, much less an inscription master. It was really worth coming to the Wubao pavilion today. When everyone reached the third floor of the Wubao pavilion they were slightly stunned. What greeted them looked very different from what they had thought. That Lu girl looks good, her strength is good, and she is also an alchemist. I do not understand why Gong Xiaoqing does not like her. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with a bit of helplessness. This kind of situation was really enough to make her embarrassed. When the voice of Xia Jiqing fell, Zhang Yinfeng's eyes landed on her body, and a teasing smile appeared on her lips. Jiqing, from what I can see, Bai Junyu is also very good toward you. I don't know what you think about him. When the words came out, Xia Jiqing quickly sighed. Yunfeng, what are you talking about? Bai Junyu and me. There is nothing going on between us. Oh. Bailey Hongzhuang also chuckled slightly and placed her hand on Xia Jiqing's shoulder. Look over there, Bai Junyu is watching you. Xia Jiqing could not help but look towards Bai Junyu, and sure enough, he was looking at her as he smiled. When seeing this, Zhang Yunfeng and Bailey Hongzhuang looked at one another, feeling it quite funny. As early as when the school year began, they had already realized that Bai Junyu felt that Xia Jiqing was special to him, but Xia Jiqing seemed to have no awareness of this. You're all talking nonsense. Xia Jiqing left the sentence before she ran to another place to look at weapons. Bailey Hongzhuang and Zhang Yunfeng could only feel helpless. It seems that Bai Junyu wants to be a couple with Jiqing, but I still think he has a way to go, Zhang Yunfeng said with a smile. If you really like someone, who cares about spending more time getting close? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly and picked up the long whip that Xia Jiqing had put down before. Although she and Xia Jiqing were good sisters, she had not asked much about Xia Jiqing's family, but now it seemed that she was somewhat similar to her. Cui Haoyan was very happy to have found a weapon in the Wubao pavilion. With this weapon his strength would have improved by a bit. As for Gong Xiaoqing and the others, although they admired the weapons, they had no need for new ones, so they bought nothing. Then everyone's eyes fell on the stairs leading towards the third floor. There should be inscriptions on the third floor. I have lived for so long, and heard of inscriptions many times, but I have never seen one before. Zhang Yunfeng could not help but smile. Lu Qinyue's face was also filled with different emotions. Inscriptions are very rare. This Wubao pavilion is able to sell them, it is really amazing. Let's go up, if we can get an inscription for our weapon that'd be so amazing. Cui Haoyan just bought a new weapon and he was very happy. If he could find an inscription that was suitable for his weapon, then his strength would be increased even further. Just as they were excited and wanted to go up, a sales assistant reminded them, Dear guests, there are inscriptions on the third floor, but you have to whisper when you go up. If you disturb the inscription masters, you will likely be driven out. Listening to the kind reminder of the sales assistant, everyone nodded seriously. Inscription masters were more rare than alchemists and they had strange tempers. They should pay attention to their behavior. However, the hearts of everyone became even more excited. They had never even seen an inscription, much less an inscription master. It was really worth coming to the Wubao pavilion today. When everyone reached the third floor of the Wubao pavilion they were slightly stunned. What greeted them looked very different from what they had thought. The third floor of Wubao Pavilion was not as spectacular as the first or second floor. The inscriptions were all just placed on a small counter. If one ignored the inscriptions that were placed to be sold, it seemed more like a tea house. The layout was very elegant and there was tea placed on various tables. At one of these tables, 3 old men with white beards were facing each other, clearly discussing a certain issue. Their faces had long since turned red. In this case, they instantly guessed that these 3 must be inscription masters, and that they were discussing inscriptions. It could be guessed that these 3 men put all their focus on inscriptions, otherwise they would not have discussed till their faces turned red. When they looked at the counters, the inscriptions for sale should have been drawn by these 3 inscription masters. However, it is clear that the inscription masters are not selling all their inscriptions here. They had just taken some inscriptions out to support the pavilion, most likely just to keep up the agreement they had with the Wubao Pavilion's owner. Otherwise the third floor of the Wubao Pavilion would not look like this. The sales assistant behind the counter could not help but smile after seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Dear guests, have you arrived to buy inscriptions? Gong Xiaoqing and the others nodded and their eyes fell onto the inscription on the counter. There was only one. They could see one pattern, but they did not understand what it did. What kind of inscription are you looking to buy? You can tell me, and I will introduce what we have. The sales assistant smiled. Gong Xiaoqing and the others' eyes brightened. As everyone knew, the inscription could improve their combat ability and the effectiveness of their weapons. It was an excellent aid for the cultivators. Just as everyone was thinking about what inscription they wanted, the practitioners from Beihai College also came up the stairs. They too were very interested in the inscriptions of Wubao Pavilion. They usually had no chance to buy inscriptions. At this moment, they saw that the Kanglan College's students were choosing, and they rushed over. It was impossible they would let them choose any good inscriptions. The college tournament was just around the corner. With an inscriptions they would be able to perform even better. How can they watch their opponents improve like this? We also want to buy an inscription. Li Jingqi quickly said, and as she said the last sentence she was afraid that the inscription would disappear. The sales assistant said, our Wubao Pavilion has a rule, we sell at most one inscription a day. When the voice of the sales assistant fell, everyone was surprised. They had never heard about this rule before. They started to think, with so many people present, only one could buy an inscription. So many people want to buy, who will be allowed to buy one then? Gong Xiaoqing asked politely. The rules for the sale ought to have a certain reason. There are two rules. The one who can answer this question will be able to get an inscription for free. If no one can answer the question, then the highest bidder wins. The sales assistant's face was smiling. He was naturally used to seeing this situation. Dear guests, you all came early today and the inscription has yet to be sold. With the voice of the waiter falling, everyone was feeling excited. They still had a chance. What is the question? There was a look of interest in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. The problem of this Wubao Pavilion could not be simple, since just answering it would be able to get an inscription free of charge. Presumably the question was impossible to answer. The eyes of everyone fell onto the shop assistant. The next moment the waiter took a piece of paper and placed it onto the desk in front of them. This is the question. When making an inscription liquid, how do you make azure spirit wood grain and tailless marble dissolve? When everyone saw this problem they were all dumbfounded. They knew nothing about inscriptions, don't even mention the question, they did not even know what azure spirit wood grain and tailless marble was. This kind of problem, only an inscription master can answer. Xia Jiqing said and felt a little sad. She knew the problem wouldn't be simple, but this was far too difficult. Lu Jingqi and the others faced each other, they simply knew nothing about it, this was impossible to answer. Seeing the look of these people, the sales assistant was not surprised. In fact, basically no one can answer the questions made by these inscription masters. However, the inscriptions were very precious, it was not a simple matter to take one out for free. After seeing this question, Bailey Hongzhuang found it somewhat fun. The inscription masters had intentionally made it difficult for everyone. Even those with a little bit of understanding about inscriptions would be unable to answer. If she thought about it a bit, she can't help but think that the elders were doing it on purpose. From the beginning till the end they never intended to give it out for free, it was just to make everyone understand and retreat. If there is no such rule, they were afraid people would complain about only selling one inscription a day. As for the result, the attention of people had been transferred. No one knows the answer, so let's just see who has the most money, Xue Haolang said. Obviously no one at the scene could answer in his opinion. The eyes of Xia Jiqing and the others fell on Shui Haolang's body. They knew he was a rich young master. However, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly said, "Who said that no one can answer this question?" When the words came out, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with a puzzled expression. "Bailey Hongzhuang, you should not be stubborn, you'll just end up as a joke." Lu Jingqi sneered. An inscription master was not someone easy to come into contact with, and it was impossible for Bailey Hongzhuang to know about inscriptions. Xiao Lanmei looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in a strange way. This kind of moment was not ideal to show off in. In fact, only an inscription master could answer this kind of question. Xia Jiqing and the others were also puzzled. They only know that Bailey Hongzhuang is an alchemist, they never knew she had an understanding about inscriptions. Take the azure spirit wood grain and the tailless marble and grind them, then mix them with the juice of a green jade vine tree, cook it with fire, then it will immediately dissolve, Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Lu Jingqi and the others saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was completely self-confident and they became doubtful. What was the green jade vine tree juice? They had never heard about it before. Lu Qinyue's heat was also filled with doubt. She knew about medicinal herbs, but she knew nothing about metal ores or the like. When Bai Jingtian and the others listened to Bailey Hongzhuang, their eyes suddenly shone brightly. The answer she had given was exactly what they had been discussing. This girl seemed to have some knowledge about inscriptions, and the answer she gave was so simple. The problem had plagued them for 3 days and yet they had not found a solution yet. As for experiments, they had done many before, and when they were younger, an explosion would have been no problem. It's just that they are older now. If it really exploded they'd lose their lives. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was ready to leave, Bai Jingtian quickly asked, "Little girl, what would you add?" Bailey Hongzhuang turned to face Bai Jingtian and the others, her lips curled into a smile, "Star powder." Star powder. Bai Jingtian and the others looked at each other with a moment of enlightenment. Star powder is very soft, and together with the condensate liquid it can neutralize the violent nature of the fiery ardent stone alongside the coolness of the black crown gold ore. Ji Yanma said. "Oh, I never thought about it." Bai Jingtian slapped his head. He had thought of many solutions, but he did not think about star powder before. Qin Qini nodded. "Just, this star powder is also a problem. A small amount is not enough, but if we use too much it will also be useless." All three were surprised. They had never before seen a young person like Bailey Hongzhuang before. What's more, this girl was only a teenager, how could she understand it so well? It was hard to encounter such a good seedling, how could they allow her to leave now? Bai Jingtian couldn't help but say, "Little girl, quickly come back and tell us." He had thought about this question for a long time and could find no solution. Now it was amazing that a little girl knew the answer when she heard them talk. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was not going to follow the script. "Dear predecessors, you have already told this young one to leave. It so happens that I have some things I need to finish, so I will take my leave." Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was ready to leave, Bai Jingtian and the other people were so anxious that they quickly got up and went to her side. Bai Jingtian looked at Bailey Hongzhuang, his face was gently and held a smile. "Little girl isn't happy with how things were before. This young one wouldn't dare to be unhappy," Bailey Hongzhuang said faintly. "This old man apologizes to you for before. Come and discuss with us, how much star powder should we use?" Bai Jingtian smiled and did not feel any shame from apologizing to a junior. As soon as she saw Bai Jingtian, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help but think of the old guys in her previous Bailey family. They were clearly the same kind of adorable old men. Not waiting for an answer from Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Jingtian and Ji Yanma had already pulled Bailey Hongzhuang into one of the chairs. Lu Jingqi squinted at the scene in front of her eyes. The situation changed too fast, and she was too stunned. What kind of joke was this? Did Bailey Hongzhuang really understand inscriptions? Not only that, she even solved a problem that these three masters were plagued by. How could this be? However, all of this was true. Not only Lu Jingqi, the people at the counter also noticed this scene. They all saw that the three inscription masters were angry, but suddenly they all changed their attitude and even apologized to Bailey Hongzhuang. So astonishing. What did Bailey Hongzhuang do? My God! Are those three inscription masters? They even apologized to Hongzhuang, she's simply a little freak. Zhang Yunfeng could not help but feel that when Bailey Hongzhuang acted it was simply earth-shattering, her little heart could not handle this much excitement. Dong Fengyu's eyes were also filled with appreciation. Bailey Hongzhuang was too outstanding and always dazzling. When did Hongzhuang learn about so much about inscriptions? She even knows so much about them. Hongzhuang is my idol. Xia Jiqing's eyes were filled with reverence, in her heart Bailey Hongzhuang was omnipotent. Even inscriptions, such a difficult thing, she knew about. She had doubts about how it was possible for Bailey Hongzhuang to know so many things. Bailey Hongzhuang was only 16 years old, she was strong, proficient in alchemy, and now it seemed that she was also knowledgeable about inscriptions. Even if she had used all her time since she was born, it would be hard to be this accomplished, but it had really happened in front of her. Lu Qinyue's face was also filled with shock. From the time she was born she had always been called a genius by everyone. Not only was her strength superior to most, but she also had excellent talent for alchemy. However, only she knew how difficult it was for her to learn how to refine pills, and she never felt that she had enough time. If it was not accompanied by a strong determination she'd never have succeeded. However, Bailey Hongzhuang not only had cultivation and alchemy, she also had time to understand inscription. Was she even human? The most important thing was that she was able to answer the question of the three inscription masters. It could be seen that Bailey Hongzhuang's knowledge about inscriptions was not shallow. She should be very proficient in inscriptions. When thinking about this, Lu Qinyue felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was a real freak. She could not imagine the future achievements of Bailey Hongzhuang. What a freak! Lu Jinglin had a disdainful look in her eyes. She would never admit that Bailey Hongzhuang was good. Maybe she just happened to hear someone mention the answer to this question. At such a tender age, how could she possibly understand and answer the questions of the inscription masters otherwise? When thinking about it, no one believed that the answer was something that Bailey Hongzhuang had come up with on her own. After making sure that Bailey Hongzhuang was seated, Bai Jingtian could not help but ask, "Little girl, how should we add the star powder? When should we add it?" After knowing that they could use star powder, he had more or less understood the problem. However, he wanted to know if this little girl would come up with the same solution as him. First add the fiery ardent stone and then the black crow gold Oregon. Add the condensate liquid together for 5 minutes and then add it. For inscriptions, Bailey Hongzhuang did not have absolute confidence, but she was very confident in configuring inscription liquids. Because during the time she had learned inscriptions in the Ring of Chaos, she had learned about the properties in different metal ores and what else to pay attention to when configuring inscription liquid. Just like the first thing to understand when studying alchemy was the understanding of the herbs, only after learning the herbs could one start learning alchemy. The old man within the Ring of Chaos had a deep understanding towards inscriptions. Her memory was also very good. She was able to remember a large amount of metal ores and the differences between these metal ores in the long time she had been studying. Up until now, she still had a lot of things that were hard to understand for her, but most of the problems about configuring inscription liquid could be solved by her. However, when the words of Bailey Hongzhuang fell, Bai Jingtian and the others all had puzzled expressions on their faces. This method was different from the one they had expected. Why should we add it after 5 minutes? Ji Yanma asked. He had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so accurate, but he felt that this could be the correct way to do it, making him feel very excited. Star powder is a very strange thing. If it is added before this, the star powder will be added into the liquid. If the quantity is too little, it will not be able to completely neutralize it either. If you add too much, the effect of the inscription liquid will also drop a lot. The effect of the inscription drawn with that liquid will be greatly reduced. Therefore, after 5 minutes of trying to melt the two ores, when the conflict between the fiery ardent stone and the black crow gold ore is getting more and more intense, just add a small amount of star powder, then the problem will be completely solved. The exquisite and perfect face was filled with confidence. The eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang fell on the three elders. I don't know what you three seniors felt about it. Bai Jingtian and the other two had fallen into deep contemplation. What Bailey Hongzhuang had said was very reasonable. What they had been thinking about before was to put these materials together before smelting them, but Bailey Hongzhuang's method was much more suitable. Somehow this young little girl had opened a new door for them, making their vision wider. Yes, this method is excellent. It perfectly solves the problem. Qin Qingyi was simply too excited. No matter what angle he considered it from, there was no problems with this. If there was no such solution, they were afraid they would have been fighting seriously to solve this problem. Bai Jingtian smiled a happy smile and asked, "Little girl, what is your name?" Compared to the previous dissatisfaction with Bailey Hongzhuang, Bai Jingtian was now much more happy and found her extremely pleasing to the eye. Such a young and promising junior, he had not seen one in many years. It was indeed a great seedling in the inscription world. Bailey Hongzhuang stood up and saluted the elders. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang being so polite, Bai Jingtian's eyes were filled with admiration. Such young people were rare. Bailey girl, how could you know how to solve this problem? Ji Yanma could not help but ask. The age of Bailey Hongzhuang was just too young. If she was older, it'd not be so amazing as it was now. Oh, Bailey Hongzhuang thought for a moment and then thought of the excuse she had used earlier. It seemed it was time to use it again. The younger generation had previously learned a lot from my master, so I was able to answer the question. Bai Jingtian and the other two men looked at each other. The answer of Bailey Hongzhuang was modest, however the meaning was clear. Thinking like this, Bai Jingtian and the others felt that the master of Bailey Hongzhuang was in no way a simple character. Bailey girl, I wonder if you can tell me your master's name? Qin Qingwu's eyes were filled with curiosity. This famous teacher might be someone world-renowned. The fact that Bailey Hongzhuang could have such achievements at such a young age showed that her master could not be a nobody. Bailey Hongzhuang tried hard not to laugh as she answered, "My master has a strange temper. He is like a wild crane who likes to wander the world. He does not like me telling his name." Hearing this, Bai Jingtian and the other two were not finding it strange. Some supreme experts like to live the life of a wild crane. Even they, as elders, were too lazy to pay attention to many disputes and issues in the mundane world. They just wanted to live leisurely lives. We understand. Bai Jingtian waved his hand. Your master must be renowned to be able to teach such a good student like yourself. Bai Jingtian knew that although he was an inscription master, next to Bailey Hongzhuang's master, he could not lift his head at all. Because the disciple of this man could solve a problem they could not understand, this meant that the other was simply too powerful. Girl, I have a question here. It is good if you could answer it for me. Ji Yanma revealed a curious gleam in his eyes. He wanted to know how much knowledge Bailey Hongzhuang had about inscriptions. Answering their question might just be a fluke. Maybe she had just randomly heard her master mention this one question. Unless she could answer other questions, she was quite useless. Please ask. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled gently and Bai Jingtian exchanged glances with the other men. She seemed to have returned to her past life where the old men had been trying to teach her and test her. She really missed this feeling. Cat's eye colored glass stones and fiery ardent stones, how do you dissolve them together into an inscription liquid? Fiery ardent stones were a metal that was often used when making inscriptions of the fire attribute, but because it was so violent, it was easy to have problems, therefore the inscription masters had a lot of questions about this stone. It was a love and hate relationship. Bai Jingtian and Qin Qingwu also smiled as they looked at Bai Li Hongzhuang. They also wanted to know if she could answer this question. The eyes of Bai Li Hongzhuang looked at the three faces, and a gentle smile spread on her lips. Cat's eye colored glass stones are mild and has no problem being mixed with the fiery ardent stone. It is just that the cat's eye colored glass stones are so hard that it is difficult to grind them into powder, however it can be done if you add a bit of black meteor liquid, then it can be dissolved. However, I had this idea that with the compatibility of the two, if you add a bit of fine powder from the gold-plated stone, I think that the effect of the inscription liquid would be even better. Bai Li Hongzhuang said directly. This was an idea she came up with after getting an extensive understanding of the different metal ores. At the same time she also has her own ideas, just like the old man in the Ring of Chaos, he often made some unexpected mixes and after some time achieved good results. Inscriptions is an art that required a variety of experiments to increase the performance of the inscription liquid. Golden-plated stone powder. Bai Jingtian frowned slightly. This idea had never been proposed before, but the golden-plated stone powder really had this possibility. If this is really possible, then the inscriptions he could draw would be increased in strength again. At the thought of this, Bai Jingtian was suddenly even more excited. No, I have to go back and try it. This method is really good. Bai Jingtian was filled with excitement. Why did he never think about this possibility before? Not only Bai Jingtian, also Ji Yanma and Qin Qingwu were enlightened by Bai Li Hongzhuang's idea. Over the years some issues had been causing them to have problems with their inscriptions. At this moment, the few words of Bai Li Hongzhuang seemed to help them enter a whole new world. Some of the problems that have been impossible to solve before were suddenly being able to find a solution to with her way of thinking. I need to hurry back and test these ideas. I will come back and talk with you later. Ji Yanma was the first to say. At this current moment many thoughts were flashing in his mind, and he had to go back now to try them all out, otherwise, if this inspiration vanished and he forgot about it, then he would regret it. Seeing the three men vanish like this, Bai Li Hongzhuang could not help but grin. These old men were truly adorable. As soon as they were deeply engrossed in an idea they had no chance to think about anything else. Wasn't this just too adorable? Lu Jinqi looked at Bai Li Hongzhuang, unsure of what to say. It was obvious to her now that Bai Li Hongzhuang truly understood inscriptions. Not only did she understand inscriptions, she was able to discuss with the inscription masters on equal footing, and even help these masters resolve some doubts. It would be reasonable to say that at her current age, that was impossible. Bai Li Hongzhuang was simply a monster. Seeing that the three inscription masters left like the wind one by one, Xia Jiqing and the others could not help but come to Bai Li Hongzhuang's side. Their eyes were filled with doubt. Hongzhuang, what happened? Xia Jiqing looked towards the exit. What happened to the three inscription masters? Not only Xia Jiqing, Gong Shaoqing and the others were all looking at Bai Li Hongzhuang with doubt. This was too weird. Bai Li Hongzhuang smiled lightly. They just thought of some very important questions. Everyone listened to Bai Li Hongzhuang's answer, but the doubts within their hearts did not dissipate. What kind of question could make all of them rush away in such a hurry? The cultivators of Beihai College could not help but look at Lu Jingqi. They had previously worried that the inscription masters would be unhappy if they came too close, so they dared not advance. Therefore they had no understanding of what happened. Lu Jinqi shook her head at them. She was not sure how to explain it. Okay, has the inscription been picked out? Bai Li Hongzhuang asked. We picked one that was suitable for Gong Shaoqing. Xia Jiqing smiled. Cui Haoyan and the others also nodded their heads. Gong Shaoqing was the strongest among them, when not counting Bailey Hongzhuang. With the strength of this inscription, his strength would definitely improve once more. As a result, he would be able to gain an even better result at the college tournament. After all, the college tournament would only care for the first place. The first-placed cultivator would determine the winner of the entire tournament. Depending on what college they came from, that college would win the tournament. Although they all thought they would do well, they might as well do their best to optimize their success rate. Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Shaoqing were the two most promising people, therefore in the time of selecting who should have the inscription, no one was in doubt. Gong Shaoqing was the one they all wanted to have it. That's great, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. Gong Shaoqing was already strong, and now he was even stronger. When the cultivators of Beihai College saw that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had solved the situation so indifferently, they also found it somewhat unbelievable. As a cultivator, was it really possible to be so modest? What mattered most was your own strength. The cultivators of Kanglan College were really different. They even faintly thought that they were too promising, but they quickly let go of their thought again. Since we've already chosen one, let's leave. Bailey Hongzhuang was smiling sweetly. Wubao Pavilion was truly worthy of its name, but they had already seen it all. There was no point in staying any longer. Hearing this, everyone nodded their heads as they quickly headed for the stairs. Dear guests, walk slowly. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were leaving, the shop assistant rushed out to say goodbye. The girl was simply too amazing and deserved respect. This was the first time someone had been able to answer the question, and it was also the first time that the three inscription masters had treated anyone like this. This alone showed how amazing Bailey Hongzhuang was. After the people left the Wubao Pavilion, the practitioners of Beihai College also decided to leave very fast. However, they secretly decided to hurry back early in the following morning. Even if the price was high, they would get an inscription. Since they sold an inscription a day, they still had a chance. Let's return to the inn, Lu Qinghua said. The originally happy and excited mood was a bit complicated after meeting Beihai College. This group of people truly destroyed the mood. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly. We met a group of people who can destroy someone's appetite. I don't feel like walking about right now. Xia Jiqing's words did nothing to hide anything, so the sound could easily be heard by others. The cultivators of Beihai College also heard it, their expression becoming ugly in an instant. When the tournament begins, we have to teach them how to behave. Lu Jingqi's face was full of anger. Ever since meeting Xia Jiqing and the others, her mood had been bad. Jingqi, that Bailey Hongzhuang really understood inscriptions. Lu Jinglin went to the side of Lu Jinghui and grabbed her hand. The eyes were filled with curiosity. Lu Jingqi nodded slightly. Looking at the way she was speaking with the three inscription masters, she should have understood them. Hearing the answer from Lu Jingqi, the feelings of Xue Haolang and the others changed slightly. Being an inscriptionist was a very respected profession. Being an inscriptionist meant that one had a much higher status than others. I did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang would be an inscriptionist. Xiao Lanmei's lips curled into a slight smile, but it did not reach his eyes, which stayed emotionless. The next morning, Huan Chuyu gathered Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. The reason for this was that the president and the vice president of the Lingyin College had personally come to pick them up. This result did not surprise Bailey Hongzhuang. She had already been expecting it. Old friend, long time no see, a middle-aged man wearing a black robe slowly walked in. Compared to Huan Chuyu, he was a lot younger. However, the appearance and temperament showed that he was far from ordinary. At a simple glance at him, Bailey Hongzhuang had already guessed his identity. This arrogant man was the principal of Lingyin College, Jian Qingqiu. After seeing Jian Qingqiu, Huan Chuyou's face was cold. Principal Jian. For the humiliation they had suffered in front of Lingyin College, Huan Chuyu had clearly not forgotten, and now he had to show his attitude to Jian Qingqiu. If he was letting it be, wouldn't the other party just step all over them? Huan Chuyu was cold and his expression was ugly, but the smile on Jian Qingqiu's face never changed. Old friend Huan, previously I was in closed-do cultivation, so I did not know that such a big thing happened, and it made you unhappy. Lingyin College is getting bigger and bigger now, even a guard can treat us like that. It seems that the principal wants us to lose face. The voice of Huan Chuyu was showing his slight annoyance. The thoughts of Jian Qingqiu, how could he not understand them? Retreating? With the simple and clear temperament, how was it possible for him to retreat? He would do anything in his power to win this. They had lived in this inn for 2 days already. If Jian Qingqiu really put any importance on them, then he would have arrived long ago, not just now. He was just showing off. Since he was showing off, then Huan Chuyu would also show him what it meant to show off. Old friend, I am really not aware of this situation, Jian Qingqiu quickly said. When I heard about this matter, I instantly fired the guard. He dared to balk you like this. He truly had no eyes to see how important you are. However, Huan Chuyu was unmoved. Old friend, what the principal said was true. I hope you will be the bigger person and not squabble with a guard. The vice principal of Lingyin College also said. I don't believe that a mere guard has the courage to act like that. Huan Chuyou's eyebrow rose slightly. Today Kanglin College and Lingyin College had long since fallen out. Since they were doomed to be enemies, why should he allow his students to suffer? You have to give me an explanation for this situation. Huan Chuyu had a serious expression on his face. This was related to the reputation of the entire college and the face of the students. If Lingyin College does not give them an explanation, then they will be ridiculed a lot more when entering the Lingyin College. He did not want to see this. Seeing Huan Chuyu being so firm, Jian Qingqiu and Lin Yinghao couldn't help but look at one another. They had not expected that he would be so firm about this situation and not let go at all. They had wanted to make a quick solution for this problem, but now it seemed that it was impossible. Old friend, this happened because of our Lingyin College not handling things well. I will apologize to you. Jian Qingqiu said, as for the guard daring to do such things, I will investigate clearly and give you an explanation. Is this good enough? Jian Qingqiu was quick to apologize. What he wanted was to thoroughly defeat the college through the tournament, so he did not care about apologizing for this matter. After the failure of Kanglin College once more, who would care about what Huan Chuyu said? Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at one another. On the surface this principal was quite good. If they did not know better, they might even be tempted to believe that he would really give them an explanation. However, after experiencing many things, they already knew how to tell the truth from lies. If it was not for the sake of the tournament, Jian Qingqiu would not even have come to find them. Seeing the change in Jian Qingqiu's attitude, the coldness on Huan Chuyou's face faded slightly. Then we will wait for Principal Jian to give us an explanation. What a stubborn old man. Jian Qingqiu's heart was swearing, but on his face a sincere smile was making it impossible to see his true thoughts. Of course. In the last few days, you and your students have lived in this inn. I have already prepared a place for you to stay at the college. Since the problem has already been solved, it would be much better for you to follow us back to the college. Otherwise, others might say that our hospitality is lacking. Lin Yinghao also said, the principal has done the best he could. Tomorrow is the day that the college tournament begins. It is more convenient if you are at the college already. What a group of old foxes. Are they really that afraid that we will run away? Bai Junyu sneered. Tomorrow was the day that the college tournament would begin. It was not before now that they came to ask them to move into the Lingyin College. Seeing this, it was likely that they were seriously afraid that they would leave like this. What else could possibly be the reason? Xia Jiqing's eyes revealed her disgust. We have to perform well at the college tournament. Now it was no longer just a question about the college's honor. They were up against a college that they loathed. They would do almost anything to be able to leave the Lingyin College victoriously. Haven't they just won 2 consecutive tournaments? What's so great about it? Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Shaoqing, it's up to you two to beat them up. Bai Junyu's face was filled with anger. Their interaction with Lingyin College had not been pleasant so far. Also, the insult and humiliation they had suffered before, they had not forgotten. Listening to the words of Bai Junyu, Bailey Hongzhuang, and Gong Shaoqing had a bit of helplessness in their eyes. They had thought that Bai Junyu was preparing to shock the opponents with his strength at the tournament. They did not expect that he was throwing it all on their shoulders. This guy was really... In the end, after the invitation of Jian Qingqiu and Lin Ninghao, Huan Chuyu took Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to Lingyin College. However, this time was vastly different from the first time. This time the president and vice president were personally leading the way. Who would dare to stop them? All the way to the Lingyin College went smoothly, and they all saw what the inside of Lingyin College was truly like. They had already known earlier that Lingyin College had a strong financial backing. The equipment of the college had to be the best of the best, but when they saw it with their own eyes did they realize that it was even grander than they had originally thought. Sure enough, this is a royal college. This is a perfect arrangement. It's just more glamorous and gorgeous, it's actually useless apart from looking good. Xia Jiqing snorted. She was so disgusted with the Lingyin College that all that she saw was useless in her eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang quickly understood the situation of the Lingyin College. The campus was much larger than Kanglan College, and it also had more students. However, she had already heard that a large area of the Lingyin College was exclusive to members of the Royal College. The royal family held the highest status here. They were high above and never interacted with the ordinary cultivators. As such, the amount of ordinary students at the Lingyin College was not much more than what the Kanglan College had. Under the guidance of the principal and vice principal, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were slowly led to their accommodation. It happened to be in the same building as the Beihai College students. Oh, that's the students of Kanglan College. I heard that they were blocked outside the college and left. I did not expect that they would be picked up by the principal and vice principal today. Kanglan College already lost twice in a row, this time they will undoubtedly lose again. The fact that the principal and vice principal have to pick them up, do they even deserve this honor? Let them be. Today they can feel a bit of prestige, tomorrow when the tournament begins, they will just be a joke. The cultivators of Lingyin College were obviously looking down on the cultivators from Kanglan College. At the moment when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang and the others they did not hesitate to ridicule them with their words. Listening to the words of everyone around them, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others had the same expressionless faces. They had long since expected this. It was obvious that the teachers and the principals of the Lingyin College had been degrading the students of Kanglan College in front of their own students. Otherwise how could all of them be like this? The students of Lingyin College are all really annoying. Little Black's eyes were full of anger. What a joke. These useless idiots even dared to laugh at their owner. Absolutely looking for death. I want to directly slap their mouths. Little White was even angrier. These people, if they don't want their face, then they could just shut up completely. Kanglan College has lost twice in a row. It is expected that these people will mock us. If I want to shut them up, then I have to rely on my own strength. Bailey Hongzhuang was very casual as she was facing this. The unrelenting sarcasm and the verbal attacks could not affect her at all. Compared to the ridicule she had suffered before, this was truly nothing. Instead of being unhappy about this kind of thing, it was much better to think about how to make all these people unhappy tomorrow. Xia Jiqing was full of anger. These people were truly too much. The faces of Gong Shaoqing and the others were also ugly. They had always been respected and worshipped in Kangwen College. Now they were the ones to be ridiculed by everyone. The gap was truly too big. Jian Qingqiu also heard the words of the people around him, but he pretended that he heard nothing and never stopped them. The smile on his face even extended slightly. This building has been prepared for you to rest. You can relax until the college tournament begins tomorrow morning, Jian Qingqiu laughed. Huan Chuyu said to Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo, bring the students inside and settle. I have some things I need to discuss with the principal. Lu Huaiyan nodded slightly and immediately led Bailey Hongzhuang and the others inside. Mentor, these students from the Lingyin College are too annoying. As soon as they walked down the corridor, Xia Jiqing couldn't help it anymore and complained. Even the hospitality was so bad. This was truly disgusting. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo's faces were also not pretty. Lingyin College has always been too much. You have been wronged by them. Listening to the words of the mentor, Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed slightly. They were already so unhappy, so they could imagine that their mentors and the vice principal were even unhappier. As long as we defeat the practitioners of Lingyin College tomorrow, then they will shut up completely, Cui Haoyan said coldly. However, the expression on Lu Huaiyan's face was still solemn. The team of Lingyin College is also very strong. They have a lot of strong cultivators. They suddenly proposed that the tournament was moved forward. Hearing this, the look of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked heavy. They had not entered their own rooms right away but gathered in one together. Tomorrow was the day that the college tournament began. They believed that the two mentors had something to explain to them. After all, they had absolutely no knowledge about the Lingyin College so far. The so-called know yourself and know your enemy determines the victory. They needed to know at least a little information about the other party so that they could prepare for the fight tomorrow. The strongest of the cultivators in Lingyin College is the crown prince of the Qing dynasty, Nangong Aochen. Nangong Aochen is now 18 years old. 2 years ago his strength had already reached the innate realm. Now that 2 years have passed, I don't know how much he has grown. Nangong Aochen is 18 now, wasn't he only 16 2 years ago? Xia Jiqing exclaimed. A 16-year-old innate realm, this talent was truly one of a kind. Lu Huaiyan nodded slightly. It is said that he will graduate from Lingyin College next year, so they want to use him as their trump card to win this time. As soon as he had said the words, Gong Shaoqing and the others understood that. This Lingyin College is truly too treacherous. Since he would not be there in 2 years when the tournament was supposed to have happened, the chances of winning would be lower and thus they moved it forward. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongbo's eyes were also filled with contempt. Lingyin College had done all this step by step, so many dirty methods had been used. In addition to Nangong Aochen, the strength of the second prince, Nangong Xiujia has broken though into the innate realm, and the third prince, Nangong Yujin is not that far from breaking into the innate realm. Besides them there are other cultivators, but these are from the royal family. The three princes are the trump cards of the Lingyin College. Because of this, the pressure on you is immense. Fu Hongbo's voice was heavy. If there was only Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin, they still had Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Shaoqing, those two could deal with them. However, the strength of Nangong Aochen was simply too massive, the chances of winning were low. Xia Jiqing and the others faced one another. This situation was much more serious than what they had initially thought. They did not expect that Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin were this outstanding. This was going to be a difficult win. I have received news that Nangong Aochen will not appear in the beginning. He won't come out before the finals, so you won't meet him tomorrow. Lu Huaiyan added. The strength Nangong Ouchen held allowed him to obtain this privilege. In front of this tournament, if you wanted to fight Nangong Ouchen, then you had to win. It is not meaningful to just participate in the tournament, it was best to give the chance of fighting Nangong Ouchen to someone strong. Mentor, then what about the cultivators of Beihai College? Lu Qingyue could not help but ask. Bai Junyu was also puzzled. Yes, what about them? They have also lost 2 consecutive tournaments, why are they so proud? He really could not understand this point. Obviously they were also losers. Fu Hongba's face showed a bit of helplessness, that is because the first place in the last 2 college tournaments has been Lingyin College, while second place has been Beihai College. Kanglan College has placed third both times. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others suddenly understood, one after another, they had been last, it really sounded quite bad. Seeing the expressions of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, Lu Huaiyan could not help but say, the reason that Kanglan College is always last, is because Lingyin College and Beihai College have joined forces. In the previous tests, the students of Lingyin College severely hurt our students, so it was naturally impossible for them to get good results on the second day. Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongba's eyes gleamed with anger. If the other side did not use such underhanded means, they might not have failed, but because of their actions, they lost in this way. How could they accept it? Seriously, the Lingyin and Beihai colleges are simply too much. Bai Junyu cursed, this was despicable and shameless, the other party did not even want their faces. Lu Huaiyan was helpless, there might be injuries in this tournament. The other party will claim it was by accident, we are helpless to do anything. This time you must be careful. Even if you can't win, make sure you don't die. Although the results are important, in our eyes, you are more important, Fu Hongba said seriously. When the words came out, everyone's hearts were touched. Compared to many mentors who only cared about results, Lu Huaiyan and Fu Hongba always put their safety first. The strongest amongst the cultivators of Beihai College is Xiaolan Mei, he has also broken through to the innate realm. Once you meet him you have to be extra careful. As the 2 mentors explained the situation of the different students from the 2 colleges, the mood of everyone turned heavy. Lingyin College had 2 cultivators in the innate realm, there was also one in the Beihai College. These 2 colleges had united, while Kanglan only had Bailey Hongzhuang at the innate realm. As a result, they were in a difficult position. Gong Xiaoqing was right on the verge of breaking through the innate realm, but a slight bottleneck was in the way. It was a pity that breaking through to the innate realm required opportunities. Only by grasping the opportunity could they successfully break through, otherwise they had no other choice than to wait. Although the face of Gong Xiaoqing was expressionless, his heart was a bit eager. If he could successfully break into the innate realm, then their success rate would increase a lot. When Bailey Hongzhuang returned to her room, Little Black and Little White had jumped directly from her head and sat on the table opposite to Bailey Hongzhuang. Master, this situation is not very good, Little Black frowned. We do not know how strong this Nangong Ouchen is. Little White nodded, he broke through to the innate realm 2 years ago, and with the cultivation resources and heritage of the royal family, I believe he has at least reached the 4th stage of the Red World. Baishe climbed from the arms of Bailey Hongzhuang onto the table, its face filled with expectations. Master, can I participate together with you? Hearing this, Little White's eyes shone brightly, yes. Baishe is Master's contracted beast, it should be able to fight alongside you. In the Shengxian continent a contract beast is also a part of the cultivator's strength, and it can be used without it being considered cheating. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were flashing in deep thought, I don't know the rules yet, but I will know when the tournament starts tomorrow. If you can bring Baishe to the tournament, naturally that would be for the best, if you can't then there is nothing to do about it. After all, this is a college tournament, they should officially care about fairness so they might not allow pets to fight. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others gathered outside the house early in the morning. Here, Huan Chuyu, Lu Huaiyan, and Fu Hongba stood and waited for them all. This college tournament begins today. Tomorrow is also a tournament, the third day is the alchemy tournament, and on the final day is the finale. Huan Chuyu said slowly. Since they went to the ruins, Lu Qingyue had focused fully on refining medicines, so she had a chance of winning this tournament. Not only Lu Qingyue, Lingyin College and Beihai College also had cultivators who participated in the alchemy tournament, so today's fight had 7 people from each college, a total of 21. Amongst these 21, Nangong Aochen had already advanced to the final, making it so that today, only 20 college students would participate in the battles. This time the fight is related to the reputation of our school. I hope you can all do your best and get good results. Huan Chuyu's voice was solemn, looking at Bailey Hongzhuang and the others with a deep pride. While Nangong Aochen was the most valued student in Lingyin College, these students were the most valued in Kanglan College. Vice Principal, rest assured, we will do our best. Bai Junyu was the first to answer, his expression serious. This matter was not only about the college's reputation, but also for their own honor and disgrace. Bailey Hongzhuang, Gong Shaoqing, and the others nodded their heads. Now that they were here, there was no way to back away. Seeing the expressions on Gong Shaoqing and the others, the faces of Huan Chuyu and the 2 mentors were all happy. You just need to do your best, I believe in your strength, but your life is the most important. Although the tournament states you can't kill, it is hard to avoid getting yourself hurt. You should be careful. We understand. Since everyone is ready, let's set out. Huan Chuyu's face was filled with a faint, prideful expression as he led Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to the ground where the tournament was being held. Today was the most lively day in the entire Lingyin College because of the college tournament. Early in the morning many students rushed to the contest grounds, they wanted to witness the glory of Lingyin College. The princes, which are hard to see on normal days, would also appear. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others came to the contest grounds, they saw a horde of people. All the students had gathered here, it was impossible to see what was going on inside. Fortunately, a passage had been cleared for them to enter, otherwise it would have taken them a long time to squeeze through. There really are many students at the Lingyin College, Zhang Yunfeng couldn't help but sigh. It is not only students of Lingyin College, even normal citizens can enter and watch, that's why there are so many, Cui Haoyan said while shaking his head. Chapter 7:11, Princess Nangong Yuer. Listening to Cui Haoyan's words, everyone was somewhat stunned. It seems that Lingyin College is certain of success and wants more people to see their victory. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrow raised slightly. A college tournament was usually only for the students of the college, outsiders should not be allowed inside to watch. Lingyin College's move was a bit unexpected. Not only this, Lu Qingyue said slowly, it is said that tomorrow, at the final, the Qing dynasty's emperor will also come and watch, they are very sure of themselves. Together with the end of Lu Qingyue's sentence, the expression on the others' faces changed again. It seemed that the Lingyin College wanted to make this into a big matter. Nangong Aochen is the crown prince of the Qing dynasty. He will be extraordinarily strong in battle, we have to be very careful. Gong Shaoqing said slowly. After Bailey Hongzhuang and her friends walked into the dense crowd of people, they saw that the cultivators from Lingyin and Beihai College had already arrived. The faces of these people held a deep smile. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, their smiles even showed a dense sarcasm. The students of Kanglan College are really important, they showed up last. Lu Jingqi said coldly. A woman from Lingyin College listened to her words, after which she said, they know that they will be shamed by coming here today. Naturally, they won't come early. The woman was wearing a pink and purple dress. Her skin was fair and white, and her appearance was outstanding. A strong pride and elegance could be seen in her aura. This was the royal princess, Nangong Yuer. They are too much. How bad was Xia Jiqing's temper? The moment she heard the words of Nangong Yuer and Lu Jingqi, she couldn't help but want to argue. However, Bailey Hongzhuang pulled her back and said, "They have a lot of people. We won't be at an advantage, so don't let them use us to start a fight. It is better to say they can see the real fight on stage." Xia Jiqing's face turned a myriad of colors, but she knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was correct. If they fight now, then that is not a good thing. I pray for me and Lu Jingqi to be in the same group. I have to tear her mouth apart. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with anger. This annoying woman, she definitely would not allow her to be happy. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly, and the eyes she used to look at Lu Jingqi were cold. This woman was arguing all day long, but her actual strength was so weak. If Xia Jiqing really had the opportunity to be in the same group as Lu Jingqi, that would be good, then she could be taught a lesson. Gong Shaoqing and the others directly ignored the words of the people around them. In this kind of environment, only their strength would be able to show their qualities. Like Lu Jingqi, they thought she was just a clown jumping around. After seeing the team from Kanglan College, a deep smile spread across the face of Jian Qingqiu. The next moment, Jian Qingqiu went directly to the high platform, and his handsome face was full of joy and held a smile. Today the college tournament begins. The college tournament is a tradition between our three colleges, which has existed since the beginning of our colleges in an attempt to promote the cultivation of our students. I now announce that the college tournament officially begins. With the words of Jian Qingqiu falling, thunderous applause spread out around them. Everyone had waited for this moment for a long time. Chapter 712, Love at First Sight. This college tournament uses lottery to determine your opponents. There are 7 cultivators from each college who participates in the contest. Because of the special status of Crown Prince Nangong Yaochen, he directly advances to the final. Hearing this, no one present thought there was anything wrong with this. His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince Nangong Yaochen, was the pride of everyone within the Qing dynasty. At such a young age he became the #1 student in Lingyin College. His strength was extremely powerful, and his talent was outstanding. They felt he was unparalleled in this world. Because of this, there are only 20 cultivators who will participate in the battles today. In order to show fairness, 5 cultivators from Beihai and Kanglan College are sent to do the picking for the lottery. The winners will successfully advance to the second round, the losers will be eliminated. Jian Qingqiu's words directly introduced the rules of the tournament to everyone. His words were simple and clear. If there is no doubt, you can start the drawing process now. Jian Qingqiu's face was filled with a big smile as a lottery box appeared in front of him. Inside the box were all the students' names. The students who had been picked to do the drawing were on the high platform, and when they took out a name, that name would be plotted down. Neither Bailey Hongzhuang nor Gong Shaoqing went to draw. However, their opponent was, they were prepared. Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin were looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with shock. They had not expected that she was a member of the Kanglan College team. So, were the words said by Mo Yunjue that day fake? After all, the cultivators from the Kanglan College had not arrived in the Qing dynasty before 2 days prior. How could they possibly know Mo Yunjue? Yujin, did they trick us? Nangong Xiujie's face was gloomy. He was so old, but he had never been played like this before. Because of the actions that day being too big, even their father, the emperor, had blamed them for what had happened. Since this matter affected the way their father looked at them, they could definitely not let it go. Nangong Yujin's face was also ugly. If that is the case, then Mo Yunjue's courage is too big. They are imperial princes, but to treat them like this, was this no different than how monkeys were treated? Even if he has a certain background, he cannot be so excessive. After asking our third sister, we will know. Nangong Xiujie's eyes sparkled as he was in deep thoughts. Mo Yinjue was not a simple character, they can't just do as they please, they had to find out the ins and outs of this matter. Nangong Yujin's eyebrows rose slightly. I'll ask her. Since the first time Nangong Yue saw Mo Yinjue, she had been very concerned about him. She did everything to see him often, but even though he avoided her, she never gave up. For news about Mo Yinjue, they believed that Nangong Yue would definitely know more than them. Yue, have you seen Mo Gongzi recently? Nangong Yujin asked. Hearing the question, Nangong Yue's eyes flashed in a strange color. Third brother, why do you ask me about Mo Gongzi? She knew about the character of her third brother. He would never ask without a reason. Chapter 713, Mo Yinjue's wife, this third brother is just worried about your future. You are not young anymore. Father is quite upset about your marriage. Nangong Yujin's face was full of smiles, he seemed friendly and would never let her know what he was actually thinking. Hearing what he said, the eyes of Nangong Yue changed slightly. Third brother, can you tell me what you heard father say? Nangong Yujin shrugged. I know you like Mo Yinjue, but what would you say if he had gotten married already? When the words came out, Nangong Yue immediately shook her head. That would be impossible. How can you be so sure? Nangong Yujin raised an eyebrow. Of course I am sure. Nangong Yue did not hesitate to answer. She got quite suspicious after hearing the words of Nangong Yujin. Normally he did not pay any attention to these things, but why would he care today? If there was an abnormality like this, something bad was likely to have happened. Nangong Yue did not believe that Nangong Yujin just asked for fun and immediately requested, third brother, what happened exactly? Tell me directly. Nangong Yujin had originally planned on testing Nangong Yue, but now that he saw how concerned she was, he told her the truth. On the first tower, I saw Mo Yinjue hold a child and look for a young and beautiful woman. He called this woman his wife. Originally I believed in it, but today I saw her appear in the team of the Kanglan College. I felt it a bit strange, so I came to ask you. If Mo Yinjue truly has a child, you should stay away from him. As a member of the royal family it is impossible to look at feelings, but Nangong Yue was quite serious about Mo Yinjue. Also Nangong Yue is his third sister, he does not want to see her cheated. As he finished speaking, the look of Nangong Yue instantly became ugly. This. How is it possible? She had never heard about this. In the past, Mo Yinjue was always alone. Not to mention a wife, she had never even seen a woman around Mo Yinjue. Nangong Yue's mind kept swirling around it, until she suddenly remembered that Nangong Yujin said that Mo Yinjue's wife was in the Kanglan team. She immediately asked, third brother, who is the woman you said was with Mo Yinjue? What woman in this tournament could compare to her? As to whether or not he is already married, the fact was that he treated the woman specially. She would like to see which woman would dare to grab her man. Nangong Yujin lifted his head slightly and looked in the direction of Bailey Hongzhuang. It's the woman from the Kanglan team in the white dress. Bailey Hongzhuang. Hearing this, Nangong Yue could not help but blink. She had already noticed Bailey Hongzhuang. Because it was simply impossible not to pay attention to her. Even though she was unwilling, she had to admit that Bailey Hongzhuang was amongst the most beautiful women in the world. She is from Kanglan College, how can she know Mo Gongzi? Nangong Yue looked suspicious, there was simply no way they could have interacted. Third brother, are you perhaps mistaken? Chapter 714, Lottery Results. Nangong Yujin shrugged. If your third brother can make a mistake with such a thing, then I am definitely not your third brother. This is not something only I saw, even second brother was seeing it with his own 2 eyes. Nangong Yujin did not say much after having said this and went straight back to where he was before. Seeing that Nangong Yujin was so serious about it, Nangong Yuer was no longer doubtful. Next, her eyes fell onto Bailey Hongzhuang again. This damn woman dared to grab her man. With her identity as a princess, how could Bailey Hongzhuang as a civilian ever compare? Anyway, she had decided on Mo Yunjue, so Mo Yunjue could only become her man. As for any obstacles she encountered, she would eradicate them completely. Bailey Hongzhuang was waiting for the result of the lottery when she suddenly felt a gaze filled with hostility focused on her. She could not help but look towards the source of the gaze, where she saw Nangong Yuer stare at her with a malicious expression. It was as if they were enemies unable to live under the same sky. In Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes was a bit of doubt. Although she and Nangong Yuer is in different camps and were unlikely to like each other, it is strange to suddenly have such hatred for one another. Even if she offended Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin, these 2 people had yet to act. What was the deal with this girl? After thinking about it for a bit, Bailey Hongzhuang decided to directly ignore it. Since Nangong Yuer hates her so much, naturally she will understand it at some point. Soon the results of the draw were out. Lin Yinghao slowly read what people had drawn. Xiao Lanmei fights against Nangong Yujin. Bailey Hongzhuang is against Lu Jinglin. Xia Jiqing against Lu Jingqi. Soon everyone knew their opponents. The people from Kanglan College were fortunate to have not drawn anyone from their own college. However, 2 cultivators from Beihai College drew each other. However, whether or not Kanglan College was lucky was yet to be determined. Because, when you draw your own students, at least one from your college will advance. If they win their battles it is naturally the best, and if they advance, then Beihai College will be worse than them. When Xia Jiqing saw that she had drawn Lu Jingqi, she was excited. This damn woman, today she could teach her how to behave. Lu Jingqi was also happy when she heard that her opponent was Xia Jiqing. If someone asked her who she hated the most within the Kanglan team, she would not say Bailey Hongzhuang but Xia Jiqing. Today is a chance to give Xia Jiqing a lesson. Jingqi, you have an opportunity to solve your hatred, perform well. Lu Jinglin gently placed a hand on Lu Jingqi's shoulder. Every tournament is a good chance to show off. If you have good achievements at this tournament, it will be a great help for your future. Sister, rest assured, I will definitely get her to bed for forgiveness. Just, Lu Jingqi's mood is bad when she thought about her sister. From the mentors they understood that Bailey Hongzhuang was very strong. She was afraid that her sister was not her opponent. Lu Jingqi and Lu Jinglin were thinking the same at this moment in time, and both felt very helpless about Lu Jinglin's luck. It was said that Bailey Hongzhuang and Gong Shakoing are the strongest in the Kanglan College. Although her sister is not weak, the last time they fought, Bailey Hongzhuang had already shown the difference between their strengths. This time, she was afraid that Lu Jinglin would lose. Sister, you, Lu Jingqi worried about her sister. She was clear about her sister's personality and was afraid that she was extremely depressed. Lu Jinglin waved her hand, I am afraid I will lose this game. As long as you do well, it will be enough. Hearing this, Lu Jingqi also nodded her head, sister, don't worry. I will help you let go of your bad breath. Nangong Yuer was unhappy that her opponent was not Bailey Hongzhuang. If it was Bailey Hongzhuang she would kill her directly. This way, Mo Yunjue would still be hers. I hope that you can survive this round. Nangong Yuer's eyes were filled with malice, there was a ray of poison deep within. Amongst all the practitioners, the fight between Xiao Lanmei and Nangong Yujin was the one that they were most unhappy about at the two colleges. The strengths of both Xiao Lanmei and Nangong Yujin were good. But now one of them had to be removed right away. This made the two colleges unhappy. It was a shame that only one of them would remain. When the result was over, Bailey Hongzhuang went to the arena, not hesitating at all. Right now there were 10 arenas set up on the tournament field. They had been prepared for the first 10 matches. If they had to wait for the people to fight one after another, they would waste too much time on the first round. Therefore Lingyin College had arranged 10 arenas to shorten the time. Also the first round was the last interesting. The further into the tournament they got, the more exciting the fights would become. Bailey Hongzhuang directly jumped onto the arena that was marked for her. Her dress was fluttering in the wind, her ink-black hair was also gently flying, and in her hand was a transparent glass sword that shone with a colorful light. It's just that although it was immensely beautiful, a cold chill made the crowd understand that they should not enjoy the scenery now. Lu Jinglin appeared on the other side of the arena. Her face was pale and obviously she was in a bad mood. "We meet again," Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. She had never thought of this result in the lottery. Lu Jinglin was only at the mysterious heaven stage, she couldn't pose a threat to her. "Bailey Hongzhuang, don't think that just because you are a little stronger. This time at the college tournament you are bound to lose." Lu Jinglin taunted Bailey Hongzhuang, she would not let her be proud. Bailey Hongzhuang's lips curled up into a sneer as she answered, "The results of the college tournament is still unknown. I only know for sure that you will be defeated by me." When the words came out, Lu Jingqi's face suddenly became gloomy. The words of Bailey Hongzhuang were impossible to refute. The referee also felt the spark of dislike between the two of them, and immediately said, "Let the fight begin." Chapter 7:16, Victory. When the voice of the judge fell, the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang soared into the sky, and she poured her yuanli into her legs. Although Lu Jinglin knew that she was not the opponent of Bailey Hongzhuang, she had to show her strength. In any case, she had to persist for a while. Even so, losing to a student from the Kanglin College was already a great shame to her. Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly took a step forward, a violent fist burst into the air, and without hesitation, it shot towards Lu Jinglin. Lu Jinglin's figure quickly retreated. Her strength is not as good as Bailey Hongzhuang's, facing her directly would be suicide. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had already known she would retreat, how could she possibly let her escape? The audience saw Bailey Hongzhuang's fist fall directly onto the chest of Lu Jinglin. Direct hit. Lu Jinglin could not help but retreat several steps, her face was pale and her eyes flashed with horror. She clearly knew that she had already dodged, but Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to be able to guess her movements. The position of the fist was aimed at the place she had dodged towards. How could this be? Lu Jinglin found it hard to believe. Had Bailey Hongzhuang already guessed her reaction? When she looked at Bailey Hongzhuang she saw a slight smile on her face. The blow was truly not difficult for her. If she wanted to deal with Lu Jinglin before she entered the ruins, perhaps she would have needed some thought and consideration, but now, there was simply no problem crushing her. The strength of Bailey Hongzhuang was already stronger than that of Lu Jinglin. On top of this, she was not showing any mercy, so Lu Jinglin found it hard to bear. The scene back in Languang City seemed to be replayed in Lingyin College. Lu Jinglin only felt that her internal organs had been shifted around, the pain that emerged from the body was intense. Just as she was ready to stand up, Lu Jinglin felt a burst of blood rush to her throat, making her vomit blood. The previous injury that Bailey Hongzhuang had given her had not completely vanished. At this moment, with another fist attack, the situation was even worse than the first time. This is why they had done everything to not fight Bailey Hongzhuang before the tournament. If they were injured by Bailey Hongzhuang before the tournament began, they would be at a direct disadvantage. However, Lu Jinglin did not expect her luck to be so bad. The last thing she wanted was to face Bailey Hongzhuang. She had not expected that this would happen. She wanted to continue fighting, but she could understand that with her current condition, it was simply impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang won. The judge announced without hesitation. Before the battle started, she had never thought that this would be the result. Defeated in one move. Just one attack. She had been looking down on the Kangwon College, but now she was simply defeated like this, in one move. This was truly embarrassing. The audience was also stunned. Bailey Hongzhuang and Lu Jinglin are both beautiful women. There were many people who paid attention to their fight. They thought that since the Beihai College had always pressured the Kangwon College, the winner of this battle should be Lu Jinglin. However, no one thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would win the first match so overwhelmingly. You're tuning in to the Han Lee's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.